Hi. I would like to inform you about what's going on in Turkey these days. Suddenly, a surprise for outsiders, big social political explosion in Istanbul, in Taksim, started in Gezi Parkı. Gezi means walking park. And then all around Turkey there were major protests and clashes with police. Tayyip Erdoğan, who has been right now the number one, the most perhaps popular Prime Minister of Turkey since Atatürk, he has been very popular. For 10 years he has been in power, and he was my colleague, my friend from high school. He was in fact 1 or 2 classes ahead of me. He was older than me 1 or 2 years, but in the same school I would see him. He was participating in poetry reading. He had a powerful voice and tall, and because he was tall he was also in Yeniçeri band. Yeniçeri was Ottoman soldiers. They would go 2 steps forward, 1 step backward, look at right and left, and with a very fantastic funny clothes. And because he was tall and great voice, they put him as Çorbacı Başı, the leader of the Yeniçeri band. He had a long stick in his hand, waving right and left, making certain kind of sounds, noises. And then in Milli Selamet Partisi, Erbakan, famous ruler Islamist political leader in Turkey, Erbakan, my brother Edip Yuksel, who is very legendary youth leader, he was assassinated in 1979. Unfortunately by racist Turkish nationalists in 23rd of February. The day has been still celebrated by his admirers. Anyway, Tayyip Erdoğan was in Milli Selamet Partisi in Fatih, in a big region in Istanbul, and later became the president of Istanbul branch. And I was also the leader of Akıncılar, a legally separate organization from party, for some reasons to protect party from certain liabilities of what we were doing. But we were basically working together. Akıncılar youth organization. I was one of the leaders of Akıncılar, and also I was the leader of Fatih branch. Therefore we were working in the same party, though his personality very different than mine. I am a jovial person, humorous. I still have child in me. I give candies, I wink at the child in me, I speak up my mind. But he was always reserved with ties. That time was also our roles were different. I was on the street, I was organizing students and just children on the street, in neighborhoods and in schools. We were entering fights for territory. I was organizing protests, illegal protests or big campaigns and stuff, rallies. But he was that time, mostly he would involve with merchants, gather them together in houses, organize them, and get also money from them for the party. Therefore, he was like a bureaucrat, very efficient machine. He organized whole Istanbul that time. That time the Milli Selamet Party was marginal, was not getting votes of more than 20%, less than some. Usually it was about 10-15%. Later they increased their votes. Anyway, I'm trying to give some background information about Erdoğan, and later he became mayor of Istanbul. But those times, and also Ahmet Davutoğlu, his Ministry of Foreign Affairs, he was also my friend. Tayyip Erdoğan was friend from İmam Hatip Lisesi in Istanbul, Fatih. That is parochial school junior school and high school, basically. 7 years we studied there after elementary school. Therefore, over there we would learn Arabic, English, and Persian. That time they had Persian. Later they canceled Persian as the third language. Tayyip that time learned Persian also. I don't know whether he learned English or not. Anyway, there was also another one. I have a lot of friends in the party, but I don't have communication with most of them because of my religious and political differences. And Ahmet Davutoğlu is my friend from Bosphorus University, which I attended only 1 year because that time I was very active on the street, writing articles, very provocative that time, promoting Islamic revolution in Turkey, like Iranian revolution. Ended up in prison 4 years, approximately, yeah, 4 years. Ahmet Davutoğlu that time, he was also very cool person. The difference between Davutoğlu and Tayyip Erdoğan was not a person who would read books. We were reading books that time, though I was on the street. I was devouring all sorts of books, ideological books. Ahmet Davutoğlu was also a scholar in early days. Very different personalities. And Tayyip speaks the language of people. And he suffered. Now, Tayyip, that time, we suffered greatly from the establishment in Turkey. Ottoman Empire was basically destroyed, decimated into many pieces, and then under the rubble and ashes of Ottoman Empire rose in Anatolia the Turkish Republic by Mustafa Kemal Atatürk. He's a very interesting guy, comes from military. He has some very good ideas, also some bad ideas. But Turkey is very polarized. You don't see people in the middle, seeing him as a human being with positives and negatives. They either glorify him as like a god, idolize him, and the other group, they bash him, they consider him even a Dajjal, means Antichrist. In Muslim liturgy, they copy it from Christianity, they call it Dajjal, means the great deceiver. Now, after Atatürk, there was a lot of suppression of religious symbols, and they wanted to ban many religious schools they banned, or orders, those sort of things. Atatürk was a smart person. He knew that religion, which is Sunnism, has nothing to do really with Islam. It is basically exploitation, ignorance, backwardness, and trouble. And therefore he wanted to reduce its presence in the public square, in government, try to make it as less significant as possible. There are discussions about his belief, whether he was a Muslim at all, or he was a deist. Even some claim he was an atheist. My opinion about him, I think he's a little bit confused. I think he was justifiably against the so-called Islam, which was Sunnism, and basically it is polytheism filled with so many medieval culture and practices that was rejected by Islam, originally Islam, but later they were crept in, they were imported in through hadith and sectarian teachings. You will find in some English videos my discussions on this issue also at 19.org. You may find online version of Manifesto for Islamic Reform. It is online also available as a book. You may check at Amazon.com. Quran a Reformist translation. We have a translation of the Quran, several other English books, but most of my books have been in Turkish. Now, after Atatürk, the seculars in Turkey, they were very averse, antagonistic of religious people. Therefore, they wanted to really suppress them, eliminate anything religious in public square. And they became paranoid, paranoid and very aggressive, even psychopath I could call them, unfortunately. They oppressed, they humiliated, imprisoned, punished many people. Therefore, there was among people, most people are religious, still they didn't change. And these people also, they really, they changed their religious beliefs, but their attitude, modus operandi, mindset still was the extension of Ottoman Empire. During Ottoman Empire, the rulers, which was the king and his things, they were really tyrants, oppressors, sultan. He was not elected, and those sultans, they were psychopaths, murderers, and paranoid. They killed, most of them killed their brothers, their children, even their father. It's incredible when you see their stories, how these cruel, barbaric, heartless, mindless people can be glorified. For 300 years they banned printing machine in Turkey. Basically doomed people to ignorance. They didn't care. They called them our sheep, ra'aya. They called them our slaves, kullarım, kapı kulu. I will come to that. I'm going a little bit ahead of myself. I need to take it. Now, therefore, religious people in Turkey suffered greatly. During Atatürk, they suffered, and after Atatürk, even the oppression went even further. Basically, they wanted to impose by force. Therefore, there was internalized anger against the establishment, the secular elite in Turkey, which got hold of military and some institutions, academia, and other justice judicial system. But it changed. With time, the number of people who are religious, who are educated, became increased. They entered the certain institutions, and some of them got very rich. The socio-economic and academic nature changed. The power shifted. And meanwhile, in Turkey, there is another figure, power, besides political party, AKP, means Justice and Progress Party. They are questionable whether it's really for justice or progress. Tayyip Erdogan, in Turkey, #1 man. He's very authoritarian. And also he has a coalition partner who is in United States. In Pennsylvania he has been. He escaped from Turkey. But he's a cult leader. Very powerful, dubious, very cunning and clever, like evangelist charlatans. I call him charlatan. He's a charlatan. He cries in front of the people as an act. He's a great actor and gathered millions of dollars. He's now called, controls billions of dollars, and they have also schools, opened up schools in the United States. He's the most dangerous guy because he's a liar. He uses taqiyya. He hides himself, and he subscribes to every Sunni teaching, all the backward, cruel, misogynistic teachings. But on the surface, he shows himself as if he is a man of peace. He's an intellectual and stuff. But he's full of contradictions, and I think major trouble for Turkey. Now we see the tip of the trouble iceberg in Turkey. Anyway, when these my former friends come into power, most of them are my former friends, colleagues. When they got in power, you expect them to be better, correct? They were oppressed because of their beliefs and stuff. You expect them to treat the other party nicely, okay? You mistreated us, but now, no, things change. Tayyip initially did some good things. One is, he became the voice of people, absolutely. I disagree with majority of people, but it's democracy. And therefore he was elected. He became first time really the voice of people, real working people, rather than the voice of elite or the military. Before him there was few, one of them was hanged by military coup, Adnan Menderes. He also became the voice of people, but military cut him. Another, Turgut Özal, was also another religious but capitalist, pragmatist president. They claim that he was killed by poisoning. Also, he had conflict with military establishment or secular establishment. Now, Tayyip gradually became very authoritarian. Several years ago, it started about 3-4 years ago, he started targeting military, which is the cancer in Turkey, unfortunately. They interfered every political decision in the country with their basically guns. They didn't let political system in Turkey develop and certain people get educated about their rights, about freedoms and stuff. Tayyip targeted and won against military. First time in Turkish history you see, forget about a petty soldier or lieutenant or a sergeant, even the top generals were put behind the prison. In the past you could not even imagine a little lieutenant or a colonel will be punished because of their crimes. Absolutely, they were like a government inside government in Turkey. A military, certain things were exposed that military had done many crimes, committed many crimes in Turkey through secret paramilitary agents. They provoked some massacres and some assassinations in order to create pretext for military coups. These were all exposed. We all knew about this, expecting that these things are happening through military. But that time military was supported by the United States. All the three and a half military coups in Turkey were conducted by American permission or even encouragement. Therefore, Turkey has been the NATO ally for how many years? More than 60 years. Participated in Korean War with America, is a great ally with the United States. Therefore, military even trained by America, some of them come here to the United States and trained. Military has been dependent to the United States and they were under control. Therefore, we knew that. And how Tayyip punished this without the consent of the United States? No. Tayyip gives the impression as if he is nationalistic and he's against the United States and Europe, but it is clear to me 100% and to many people who watches carefully the politics of the country, he's ally with the United States, great ally. United States switch horses in Middle East. Instead of bloody dictators, military leaders, United States now using so-called democratically elected puppet regimes. All regimes may not be exactly puppets, but will accommodate enough the interests of the United States and the companies, the American companies, corporations. The terms of the corporation impose on a country through behind the door deals, imposition through these allies. Anyway, Tayyip Erdogan got wink from the United States, in fact, support. Now it is time you can get rid of the military guards of the republic, put them behind the jail. You can do anything, carte blanche. You can use police, and Tayyip did that. But meanwhile, Tayyip needed an ally, which the power, the manpower, and also financial power of this cult, Fethullah Gülen. Fethullah Gülen. Remember this name. This is the most powerful leader in Turkey, even more powerful than Tayyip, because Tayyip, without his support, could not become that powerful in Turkey, needs his support. And anyway, now with this police organization was infiltrated by this cult, and this cult now controls the police organization in Turkey, and many schools. They infiltrate. The whole thing is secretly infiltrate. They cover themselves, camouflage themselves, and then finally they take over. They are like HIV, I would say. They cheat, they fool the immune system of a country. Now Tayyip became very arrogant with time. He got about more than 50%, about 50% of votes. What percentage of the country voted, I don't know, but people think that it is realistically 30% of the whole country. Everyone is not voting, of course, but 50% of votes is fair. But he thought that because he won, that he can do whatever he wants, he can ignore the minorities or those other 50% did not vote for him. He doesn't have really good concept of democracy. He was raised in the political party like me, that we believe in Sharia. Really we thought democracy would be a vehicle for us to bring our theocracy. In fact, there are his speeches in the past that says democracy, really we don't believe it. We want to use democracy as a vehicle to bring our things. By later he says he changed. I do believe he changed. He changed not philosophically, like I do, not intellectually, but through pragmatist way, through politics. He learned that it's not possible for him to go there. He compromised. He changed his belief system in order to gain power. He's a Machiavellist, absolutely a perfect example of a Machiavellist. He changed his position against, for example, European Union, without really much support. He initially says this is Christian Union, they will never accept us because we're Muslims, and later he begged for years to join the European Union. Now European Union doesn't really much take it seriously. Somehow they are playing games with Turkey, and many Turkish people now fed up with European Union's arrogance. Now Tayyip has two things made him arrogant. One, the opposition party, which is CHP in Turkish acronym, means Republic People's Party. CHP supposedly is a leftist party, but far from left. It's also very capitalist and nationalist. Can you imagine? They became nationalists and capitalists. It's more a fascist party rather than a leftist socialist party. Recently, European socialists, they rejected them. They were rebuked by European socialists. What kind of socialist you are? Now, JP is its past is very bad. Majority of people hate this party, do not like this party, because they were the oppressors in the past. They are known for their cruelty and oppression and looking down to people, and they were paranoid seculars and also Atatürk worshippers. Again, Atatürk, a lot of his reforms, I like it, but I have no relation with people who idolize him. They become ignorant bigots, fanatics about Atatürk. Atatürk lived that time. He was a thinking man on his own, considering conditions, he was making decisions, finding solutions. And these people who parroting him, basically, it doesn't work. Time change, condition change, you need to be smart. You cannot become a slave of one idolized person. It's just crazy. In fact, this guy, if he was here, he would say, "Are you idiots? This is exactly what I was against. I was for critical thinking, for finding solution through your own brains. Now you became imitating me. You don't become like me. You become idiots. Forgive me for using this language, but if you know what we suffered in Turkey through these people, imagine this country in the past was not economically very good. But in every corner they put sculptures, sometimes huge memorials and sculptures of Atatürk. Every corner. It was once considered as the biggest industry in Turkey, just making up these sculptures, these idols. And therefore, this is an advantage of Tayyip Erdogan. Basically, the opposition party doesn't have any project, any ideas. They don't relate to the people's needs, to the working people's needs. And they are basically out of touch, confused. But this is also at the same time Tayyip's curse. Because weak of opposition, he ignores 50% of the population, which is not really represented. And when he becomes this arrogant, dismisses all these oppositions, and he generated a lot of hatred. This was the last straw. Many things. For example, he sold many corporations in Turkey, many industries, some of them owned by the state. And later it was sold through some corrupt deals to some private sectors, but they mismanaged, they bankrupt. And then Tayyip, instead of finding solution inside the country, says, well, I will sell them. And sold a lot of major industries in Turkey, from telecom to mining to electric generation or distribution, to many industries to foreign companies. And therefore this became major news and concern, even lands and everything sold. And this brought a lot of cash to Turkey. And meanwhile, Tayyip also borrowed a lot of money from different sources. Paid from this borrowed money, paid IMF, International Monetary Fund. By this way, used as a propaganda. Here, my people, I saved you from IMF, International Monetary Fund. Wow, this is a great national achievement, first time in generations. But at the same time, he increased the total owed money by Turkey is much more to private sector and foreign. Therefore, basically got the rabbit from under one hat, disappeared to put it under another hat. But brought cash, and there is a vibrant economy. Turkey, unlike Europe, a few years ago it was about 7%, 8%, the development of the country, which is pretty high rate. Now I think it is about 3%, 4%. But meanwhile, he made some other errors. As a Muslim, if he was Muslim following the rules of the Quran, he would be concerned about the have-nots, more about people, poor people, people who are in the bottom. This is most repeated verses of the Quran, but helping the poor, not ignoring them, feeding, not having anyone hungry or homeless. Al-Masakin it's called. Ibn Sabil it's called. Anyway, but he ignored, he kind of started thinking that capitalism, wild capitalism, is a solution, and a consumer culture he promoted, everyone shopping malls and stuff. This is one thing. And the gap between have and have-nots increased. Though those people in poverty, their income increased, their income, but relative to the rich, it didn't increase, it went down. Therefore, there is now bigger gap between lower class, unfortunately I'm using the class word, this is the curse, unfortunately, of capitalism, and also those who have wealth. Turkey on Gini index But a couple of years ago, it was on top 5 worst countries. Gini index means the distribution of wealth. How bad, how good it is. It was worse among 5 worst countries. Means there's big gap between rich and poor. They are Chile, Mexico, United States, Turkey, and Israel. These are 5 top worst countries. Israel and United States, their income is per capita is so high. Therefore, even people in lower, they may not go hungry, but comparatively, absolutely one of the worst countries on earth. And in the United States, there are many people who do not have health care. Unfortunately, millions of people in jail, in prisons. This became invisible population. We'll talk about that later. Now, this is one bad thing that done, good and bad at the same time. But long term, I think it is not a good investment, because in Turkey, he didn't invest in certain cutting-edge industries that would give Turkey a comparative advantage in global economy. You don't need to be a kind of average good in 50 different industries. All you need to be very good, the best, in 3-4 industry, maybe even in 2. 2 a little bit risky, but 3-4 industry pick. Could be small industry, but be the best as a producer. And this is one. And second, academic system in Turkey, he claims that he opened many universities, which is true. But on the other hand, even if he opens universities in every village, it is basically very low quality education. What I check, I look at how many patents these universities produce, how many world-class scientists they produce, or scientific journal articles, how many of them they produce. When we use these universal criteria, unfortunately, we see there is no really improvement, progress in Turkey in academia. Turkey was in the bottom of the patent list of the countries receiving patent. United States, 2.7 million patents since 1999, between 1999 and 2012. In how many years? About 13 years. 2.7 million patents, United States. Europe and the world, the rest of the world, 2.5 million. Approximately 5 million less than 5 million patents. And then individual country comes Japan after United States, and then Germany, and then the rest of the European countries. Even small European countries like Liechtenstein, I don't know even how to pronounce, or Denmark. I got disconnected. I ran out of space in the disk. I'm continuing. I will make it shorter. Therefore, the education system is not really at par with the world. Is not producing science and technology, world class, and also the distribution of wealth in Turkey is not well. It creates people who are not happy with the situation, and selling also many industries in Turkey to foreign companies created suspicion about, is he selling our country, selling out? And we also increased the really amount of borrowed money. Meanwhile, the economy grows. Some people says relative to the economy, this much debt is not a major concern. But I do believe that the economy is not on formidable basis. It is a consumer economy, is not producing really. Exportation is much less than the importing. Therefore, I think the problem is progress is led for the future generation. The problem is just pushed a few years ahead. These will all fall apart, because like a Ponzi scheme, there is money coming here through this, and there is certain economy is created based on this income and then attraction, but it will not be long term. And tourist industry, tourism is absolutely not reliable. Any country relying on tourism, they have problem here, because tourism is like weather, can easily be destroyed with a few bombs in the country, with a few even rumors about the country, or a disease that's gone. That industry could be destroyed in a very short time. And the other is also comparative advantage, is not thinking strategically for long term. Therefore, I don't think that the economy is well for long term. It is short term, it seems good. And the other issues, the Kurdish issue was major issue. Two issues were in Turkey, major issues. For generations, people fought over it. And both human-created, man-made, superficial problems because of lack of critical thinking. Because from Ottoman time, inherited certain attitudes and ignorance. Based on that, people created this problem. One is headscarf, banning of headscarf. Many women were unfortunately tortured because of this. They were not allowed to go to the school or work with headscarves by these paranoid so-called seculars. Still, headscarf is an issue, very interesting. This guy, Tayyip, is 10 years in power, basically penalized all of these seculars and all those who oppress, even the military. Several hundreds of them put in prison. Despite that, he did not solve. Why? Because he uses it as a propaganda, an exploitation. Religion is opium of masses. Like in the United States, Republican Party come into power, does not really change the laws of abortion, few issues. It is their pet issues. They always use it to tickle people's religious and nationalistic hormones to get their votes. Another major issue was the Kurdish issue. Again, it was man-made because of the basis of the Turkish Republic became racist, denying the existence of the Kurdish people. It was policy of forced assimilation, basically cultural genocide. They banned the Kurdish language. Even the name of the Kurdish towns was changed. Even Kurdish people were not allowed to give the names, Kurdish names, to their kids. There was a time singing in Kurdish was a crime. There was, you could be elected to any position if you just hide and don't talk about your Kurdishness, that's fine. The moment you say I'm Kurd, you were in trouble. For example, Şerafettin Elçi, he became even a minister in Turkey. But I said I'm a Kurd, one said. What? You said I'm Kurd? Like I am an alien or I am an agent. They just kicked him out, he lost his position. Not only that, they put him in prison, a few years in prison. There was a huge, incredible racism, and they didn't call it even racism. They have all sorts of convoluted arguments for why there is no Kurds. And they changed with time, those definitions and stuff. And finally, there were a reaction among Kurds. They went to the mountains, they started guerrilla war for their honor and culture, language, and existence. And they called PKK. They start fighting with the Turkish military and police. And since some among them killed also some civilians, did some act of terror, well, the Turkish government, compared to them, they were much more terrorism. They killed many more civilians. They burned even towns, the Turkish military. Therefore, when we talk about terror, we are conditioned by the state propaganda. We think it's just a few gang or a few, a little organization, we call it terrorists. The biggest terrorists are states, and they are the biggest liars. They have billions of dollars worth of budget for lie and propaganda to fool their own people. They have their own secrets. Many people doesn't know what's going on. It's called classified. Millions of files, what they are doing with your money. Anyway, this is Kurdish issue. Tayyip finally gave up, saying, oh, this is a problem created in Turkey by foreign forces, always, foreign forces. Which foreign forces? They don't even say the name. Foreign forces, they're the aliens. Foreign forces goes this town, your own town, these are foreign forces. Inside, fools, deceives the 17 years old, 18 years old kid, 16 years old kid to go to the mountain or in the city to fight against police, threw rocks to the police while police shooting bullets, or tanks destroying their homes. And is this foreign agents all over in your country? Why you don't, for God's sake, capture them, arrest them, show us? Not a single one. Or political ultimatum, warn these countries, whoever they say, we are going to cut in the relationship, we are going to take our embassy from you. None of them. But for decades they say, oh, this is made up by foreign. I made many videos on this. This is not a foreign made. This is not an external issue. This is this sickness, this disease you created because of the racist policy, because of your oppression of Kurdish people. You can finish this in 4 months, I said. It is in your hand. The initiative, the decision in the hand of the government, not foreign government. Maybe there might be some foreign government would like to exploit it. Goodness sake. They cannot manipulate millions of Kurdish people, turn them against their own government, and fool them in a way they will put their life at risk, they will give away their lives. Are you stupid? How do you do that in your own country? You have all the propaganda machines, you have all the money, budget, you have the things. Why don't you, I told the Turkish government, why don't you do similar thing to any other country? Go try to do a fraction of this as a retaliation to them. Go to their countries, try to deceive some of their youth against their government. Let's see how many of them you can deceive. To arm against, let's say, Belgium, or Netherlands, or Switzerland. If you can find one crazy or two crazy people, you are lucky. You will not be able to have a mass uprising against government as a foreign country. Therefore, all the tyrants, oppressive regimes, use foreign countries as a clutch, as a diversion, as a propaganda, as a lie. And exactly what I said. Oh, I was being attacked, I was being criticized by many fascists, and some of them are religious people. Edip, how can you say that? This is obviously supported by foreigners. This cannot be. And then exactly what I said happened. Tayyip finally, because of the situation in Middle East, the dynamics have changed. He couldn't continue fighting the Turkish government against Kurdish people, and then decided to have peace. The moment they decided, the PKK, so-called terrorist organization, they sat together with the terrorist organization, which they said, we'll never sit together with them talk. We don't talk with terrorists. Well, they finally sat with them. In fact, the head of the guy, which they accused him of being a baby killer, like Mandela was accused of being terrorist by South Africa, like Martin Luther King accused by the United States as being subservious, communist, anarchist, terrorists in the United States, exactly the same way. Abdullah Öcalan, they sat with him and they started making progress, and now there have been several months, not a single killing of Turks. There is a peace. That means the initiation was in the hand of the government, not foreign. If it was foreign would not stop because you sat with them. See, it proved my point. Again, this issue, anyway, these two issues I said, the headscarves and this one. Tayyip could solve the headscarf, did not solve, has not solved yet, because still want to exploit it, use it for political propaganda. Still they want to keep themselves, oh, we are oppressed. And if you give more power, one more time, I become even president. Well, the president is his friend, Abdullah Gül. I met him only once when I was in the party. But Tayyip, I know him better. And Tayyip is the most powerful guy. He's like #1. There is no #2, even in FARC. He doesn't consult anyone, he just dictates. I know there are some members of Congress, my friends. I am politically radioactive, therefore in public I'm not associating with them, only in public few of them who are not in the party, in that party. They tell me, they say, Edip, we cannot say no to anything he says. We have to say this. Because he's the one who is creating the list. Unfortunately, in Turkey, political party leaders are dictators, little dictators. They create the list of the candidates. Therefore, you need to really kiss their feet in order to be in the list, and you will owe next, again, your name to be on the list, how good you are to him. Basically, it is not democracy. There is no democratic procedure in the political parties, and also it reflects in the country too. Now, Tayyip became arrogant, as I said, because the opposition party is basically bankrupt, ideologically bankrupt, there are no good ideas, and their past is also very bad past they have. And but there is also discontent. There's some economic, but mostly worried about this guy is taking Turkey to the path of Iran or Saudi Arabia. Exactly this fear, because he's talk about religion, he talks like as if he is a imam in a mosque. He talks about hadith and even make up verses about the Quran. Recently he said, لَوْلَاكَ لَمَا أَخْلَقْتُ الْأَفْلَاقِ, God said to Prophet Muhammad, if it was not you, if it is not you, Muhammad, I wouldn't create the universe. And this guy knows Arabic because we studied in the same school. And he should know the Quran better. This is not God's verse. This is made up by Satan, by evil people, to basically distort the whole message, peaceful, progressive message of Islam. And he says this from God, attributing lies to God. And anyway, I'm diverting, but this guy has been becoming more religious. He wants to put mosques in every corner. And he's talking about many frivolous issues, dictating, oh, our national drink will be Ayran yogurt mixed with water, kind of diluted yogurt, okay? And women should, every family should be 3 people, more than 3 people give birth. We need to increase the population. What a terrible thing. More population, goodness sake. Yes, short term, you will benefit from that, youth generation, but it is Ponzi scheme. In the future, overcrowded, what you will do? You will fight over water with the neighbor countries. You will not have enough water to drink, enough place. Istanbul is people living on top of each other. Traffic doesn't move, goodness sake. But this short-sighted guy, for short-term benefit, because if there is younger generation, of course, there will be more working people, less retired, all short-term. And then he uses religion for that again. Religious, certain things falsely attributed to Prophet Muhammad. And also recent regulations about to restrict more, bring more restriction about the consumption and purchase of alcoholic beverages. And as I said, Turkey is a very mixed country. There are people who are not religious at all. We say I'm Muslim, but never prays and drink alcohol and goes to parties. There are some people who are atheists. There are a little minority of Christians, Armenians, Alevites, who is a different sect. They are not religious at all in terms of Sunni religion. They have their different traditions. They drink alcohol too. Therefore, they start worrying, and it is justified because this guy, inch by inch, step by step, making more religious, and giving even the names that he gives to the projects. To bridge, recently the 3rd bridge, he wants to have a 3rd bridge on Bosphorus. As a name for that one, Tayyip Erdogan thinks of name. He doesn't think of hydrogen, carbon, for example, beautiful, or potassium is a name, or the name of a great scientist that we benefit the most, like the name of Newton. Why not? Or name of, let's say, Leibniz or Socrates, great thinkers, or Feynman, or Einstein, or Ibn Sina, Al-Khwarizmi, scientist, Al-Iz, Abu al-Iz, Ibn Rushd, many names, scientists, or the name of elements, goodness sake, use those. But among all the, even give the name of vegetables and fruits, carrot bridge, or potato bridge, tomato bridge, cherry bridge, beautiful. But among all the names come to his mind is Yavuz Sultan Selim. Who is Yavuz Sultan Selim? Yavuz Sultan Selim was a paranoid psychopath. I'm using these two words. It's not an insult. It is in fact it doesn't even reflect the real terrible nature of these people. These were pharaohs. They thought their progeny is the chosen ones, and they have the right for throne. And when the time comes, they become paranoid of their own brothers, they kill each other, and the surviving become the king. Yavuz Sultan Selim killed his father. Before, it was new on his time. The others did not kill their fathers. They only killed their brothers, sometimes their sons, for throne. The supporters, they say, no, they cared about people, for the unity of the country. If they care about people, they would do the election. They will consult people. They will not dictate on people. What a big lie. Anyway, this guy started so impatient to become the next king, he killed his father, Yavuz Sultan Selim. This is in 1500. After killing his father, his older brother, Korkut, fought against him, and later Korkut gave up, said, I can be giving up, I'm accepting you. Okay, come, let's meet, let's hug each other. He called him, cheat him, and then he killed him through a bow. Strangled him. The other brother he killed too. Ahmed, the other one I forgot, Shahzadeh. They call it Shahzadeh. This is the murderer of his two brothers and father. And he's a slave owner. He's a rapist. He got dozens, if not hundreds, of women who were kidnapped from the countries that Ottomans invaded, mostly Christian countries. They kidnapped the girls or the daughters of people, and the beautiful ones picked by whoever and put in harem. This guy would go rape them. They were slaves. They call it jariyah. Haram. Basically prison, sex prison. This guy was incredible. He attacked Jordan, Syria, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, killing tens of thousands of people, went all the way to Egypt to get so-called Khalifa, to become Khalifa. Khalifa is a terminology, is mistranslated, unfortunately, by followers of Hadith and Sunnah. Khalifa means the successor. We are not Khalifa of God, we don't succeed God. Adam was Khalifa of the previous primate. God created Adam through evolution, succeeded the previous primate. That's it, Khalifa, succeed afterwards. Khalifa is used after Prophet Muhammad for Abu Bakr, Umar, Osman, and Ali because they succeeded as presidents. They were president, they were elected presidents. Khalifa means successor, not as a king, but as a leader, as an elected leader. But later, during Umayyad times, after Ali, they changed against the Quran. The Quran says their affairs among them is based on consultation. Chapter 42, verse 38 or 21. Now I'm not sure about that. Anyway, they changed that one. Anyway, after that, it was all basically pharaonic, has nothing to do with Islamic leadership, which is based on election consultation. And he tries to get this satanic Khalifa title. He has to kill him. First of all, the Khalifa, the idea of Khalifa from father to son, by itself is satanic against the Quran. And second, he wants to get it through power, through robbing, like snatching the bag. And meanwhile, he killed how many thousand? 85,000 Mamluks in Egypt in 1517, in Merjidabik War. Check it. About 10-15,000 Ottoman also soldiers. And those soldiers, Yenicheris also, were the kids of the Christians that were kidnapped and forced to become Ottoman military, brainwashed, and then they become military for the killers of their mothers, the rapists. And they went invade other countries, kidnap other kids. An incredible, cruel, diabolic, absolutely trash empire. 500 years. Did not even produce 5 scientists. For 300 years, the Ottoman Empire banned even the printing machine. Ignorant, arrogant, and they also treated people like worse than the horse shit. Call them ra'aya, sheep. And they killed many of people who served them. Vizier. Kill them. King gives his stomach ache. He doesn't feel good. He look at him and says, well, or his parents. I am continuing from here again. It took longer than I expected. I was going to talk about the recent protests and clashes in Turkey that started in Gezi Park by environmentalists to protect trees from construction of a big shopping mall, an Ottoman time barrack from a historical Ottoman barrack. They also wanted to rebuild that. And it started there, but police attacked these protesters very early morning. A very violent and cruel attack with really people with conscience, when they saw it, it's outrageous, regardless of their political affiliation. Well, those who are siding with Tayyip Erdogan, unfortunately, they are blinded with their arrogance and also vengeance against seculars, and therefore they thought these were this. But a lot of these people, young people, they were apolitical. They had no really political zeal. And therefore, when police attacked, beating them, gassing them, you see the picture of woman just with her bag and standing, and police on her face, or beating and destroying their tents and stuff. These videos and pictures basically outrage tens of thousands of people. Afterwards, they went on the streets all around Turkey, first in Taksim and later all around Turkey, protesting Tayyip, his basically authoritarian, dismissive attitude. And I was talking about Ottoman Empire. I'm coming back. The reason I talk about how Yavuz Sultan Selim also killed Alevites. Imagine, about 40,000 Alevites he massacred. And Alevites in Turkey is another group like Kurdish people, is a minority, religious minority, Kurd ethnical minority oppressed by the Turkish racists, fascists. And Alevites have been oppressed by Sunnis in many ways. They are very excluded, and there is the government finances the religious affairs, pay salaries to tens of thousands of imams and muezzins and maintaining the mosques, but Alawites do not get anything. Therefore, they are minority, mistreated, and also discriminated against. And when he, among all the names of scientists and vegetables and fruits and periodical table, even numbers, he goes, finds Yavuz Sultan Selim, the killer of his father and brothers, the one who committed massacre all the way by attacking the countries all the way to Egypt, killing tens of thousands of people. His name, and also he massacred Alawites. Alawites are very fearful right now, and giving them more reason to be afraid of these guys. And also many also other scandals, like cheating in national exams, standardized exam. There are a lot of claims that the cult of Fethullah Gülen, they were cheating, they were stealing questions, which several times they were also evidenced. And therefore people are fed up in many ways. Students were fed up, or person who is jobless fed up with this, or a person whose lifestyle is different things that is fed up, and loud call to prayers wake them early morning, no one cares about them. And Tayyip's rhetoric and arrogant demeanor basically alienated these people, and this was also another excuse. The pressure pot cooker exploded. Now what he will do? Well, he started accusing the West, foreign forces. He talks from his stomach, like ventriloques, this is Turkish. And says, oh, the foreign forces, accuse them. And later some of his propaganda machine is, he controls right now the main media, TV stations and major newspapers now under Tayyip's control. There is incredible censorship. That's another sign of fascism. Police state. I don't want to forget, just recently, after these clashes, this uprising against him, he went to Africa for a few days and came back and wanted to show off. His party rallied all the supporters, gathered them with buses and stuff to the airport, about several 10,000 people. And then these people says, give us permission, we go destroy those people in the park. And then he gives them a speech, he start bashing them. Çapulcu, he called them. Çapulcu means plunderers, or mobs, or bombs. This word. And interesting, these protesters, they accepted this word. They call themselves Çapulcu, which is a negative word now becoming positive. Like Big Bang. Someone made fun of it, a mockery, and it became a name to it. There are very interesting examples of it. He called them Çapulcu, and later he says, no, they are the agents of foreigners. Which foreigners? You are the ally, number one ally of the United States. Once you were bragging about to be the co-sergeant, I say, co-leader of the new Middle East project. BOP, it's called Büyük Orta Doğu, Greater Middle East Project. He was happy with that. He was bragging about when initially he was trying to become the prime minister. And you have been trying to join Turkey to European Union. You have good relation with Europe. Who are these? And then about German companies supposedly provoking this uprising because they are against something. One of Turkish Airlines or against that, and even the interest lobby, banking lobby, many things. Made up stories. And then what happened? Just today, he invited some of the so-called representatives of these people. These people are not organized, first of all. But some people, 11 of them, and talk to them. He says, well, it will be okay, let's do a referendum. Now they say Tayyip is solved. Who did you meet? Foreign? No. Germans? No. Interest lobbies? No. Interest in Turkish is translated also as interest, like bank interest, but in English when you say interest, private interest is a little bit different. Anyway, but I think his future is danger. He's very arrogant. Day by day he's becoming more arrogant and dismissive. This was a sign for him. I hope he take lessons from that. And people around him, no one tells him the truth. Whatever he does, you are great. You are the best king. How is this clothes? Well, this is the best clothes. But he's naked sometimes. They still applaud his clothes. And but if he continues, he will alienate even more people. And he doesn't know now there is another media. It's called internet. The censorship of very interesting. I tell you, when he says in this airport when he came back, tens of thousands of people welcomed him, say, give us permission, we destroy. And then in that speech, long speech, one of the words, he says, my life I want to sacrifice for democracy. Canım demokrasiye feda. Slogan. But many, many other words. But in 7 newspapers, all the newspapers controlled by him, by his party, biggest newspaper, Zaman is the cult newspaper, Star, Sabah means morning newspaper, Türkiye, and few others, all of them had this as a headline. Canım demokrasiye canım feda. That was a clear proof to the entire world that there is a great censorship in Turkey. Because other newspapers each picked different lines. His speech had many, many lines. But how all these newspapers agreed upon exactly the same 3 words. Therefore, he controls police, and police have been very, very cruel. If you see on YouTube, say Gezi Parkı, police, şiddet, put these words, or atrocity, maybe English words, you will see police how cruelly attack people, beats them, uses water. Sometimes basically a person falls on his head, or go attacks people who are by the sea, men and women, especially women who do not have headscarf. You see police attacking them, kicking them, beating them, pulling their hairs. They are by the sea, they have nothing to do with even protest. They take advantage, they think that these people are not religious like them, they attack them. Incredible cruelty. There were also police walking on the side of the police on the street from top. They have recorded civilians with big, big clubs in their hand, wooden clubs in their hand. Civilians terrorizing people. Absolute fascism. Instead of, previously we had military danger, we used to have military coups, and they were oppressing. Now police, even sometimes worse. Just recently, yesterday, police entered the court and arrested 49 lawyers just in the moment. Attacked them, beat them, pulled them. 49 lawyers. Many journalists are in, unfortunately, prison. He's paranoid, becoming more paranoid. He thinks there will be a coup against him. Goodness sake, there is no one to be against you. You basically tamed the whole military. They are not lying anymore. They are cats in cages. There is no danger. He's lying. It was all propaganda. They made up lies about these people, protesters, who is a student, or an architect, or a businessman, or a woman, housewife. They just fed up with this oppression. An oppression in the name of religion. Therefore, religion, mixing religion and nationalism, both of them are the worst drugs. They can turn people to sheep to be exploited, herded, or they turn them to monsters with a push of button, with just one instruction from the one who manipulates and controls them. Therefore, these are the two things we need to